Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please continue to enjoy your coffee and dessert, and we'll get this next phase of the program underway. My name is Drew Guff, and I have the distinct honor to chair tonight's program here at the Library of Congress, and in this incredibly fitting and appropriate venue, the Hall of Great Writers and Thinkers. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's also, I thought I would share a little bit of how this project of translating Solzhenitsyn's memoirs, his autobiography of his years in America, came about. It was about 5 years ago or so, and I was at the home of Andy Summers, who was the head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Moscow, and there was this young guy, and he was sitting there, and he was a great raconteur, and he was smoking, and he had a drink, and we were talking, and it was probably 1 in the morning or so, and he mentioned that his name was Yermolai. Yermolai. So I've met lots of Mashas and Pashas and Sashas, and I'd never met a Yermolai before, and so I said to him, that's a really interesting old Russian name. And then he talked about having gone with his father on a train ride from Vladivostok back to Moscow, and he was talking about Vermont, and slowly I put 2 and 2 together, and I realized that he had a last name that was a lot more interesting than his first name, which was Solzhenitsyn. And we got to talk about his father's works. And he started talking about the fact that a great body of his father's works had gone untranslated. And I asked him which ones, and he said, well, the big one is the autobiography of his years in America. And when I heard that, I said to myself, well, we have to do something about that. That can't last, because it's an important part of the oeuvre of Solzhenitsyn's work for any scholar, any Russian, any American who's interested in great writing really needed to know about it. So it was really shocking to me that the work had gone untranslated, and we set about to do something with it. So back in 2014, together with the Kennan Institute, the Solzhenitsyn family, and the Solzhenitsyn literary estate in the United States, we launched the Solzhenitsyn Initiative. And I also learned that Yermolai was working at McKinsey, Russia at the time. He was the head of the McKinsey office. And I also recall saying to him, my goodness, from the Gulag to McKinsey in 1 generation, that's really something. Anyway, thanks to Yermolai, and thanks to Stepan, thanks to Ignat and Natalia, their mother, and Solzhenitsyn's wife, the initiative all came together. So I want to take a chance now to give some credit where credit is due. I'd like to recognize Matt Gherkin, who represents the Solzhenitsyn literary estate this evening. They've been fantastic partners through this whole process. Matt, if you're here, please stand up and take a bow. And tonight we're launching book 1 of the memoir, which is called Between Two Millstones, and it was masterfully translated by Peter Constantine. Book 2 is on the way, and on your way out at the exit, you'll receive a copy of Between Two Millstones. And by virtue of the first translation and the launch of the initiative, the Solzhenitsyn Literary Estate was able to secure an anonymous donation to translate the rest of the Red Wheel saga, which is Solzhenitsyn's history of Russia leading up to the 1917 revolution. And the first Red Wheel volume came out last year, and there are more on the way. Next came a really fantastic publisher and partner of ours, and he's here tonight, and I'd like everyone to recognize with burya aplodismentov Steve Rinn from the University of Notre Dame Press. And Notre Dame, as one of America's great universities when it comes to ethics and morality, is not only just publishing the book, but they established a series devoted to the teaching and study of Solzhenitsyn at its Center for Ethics and Culture. And Steve, I understand this weekend was the big kickoff of the fall conference, and they used this book and Solzhenitsyn's writings as a way to discuss topics that Solzhenitsyn focused on: freedom, morality, dignity, self-sacrifice, and their role in society. So thank you, Steve, and thank you, Notre Dame, for all you've done. So tonight's a celebration of a century of Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn, and we're also here to start a new chapter in the legacy, to talk about his refuge in the United States and the years he spent here. So in a moment, we're going to hear an interview with one of Alexander's sons, Ignat, another great Russian name. And by the way, Ignat does not work for McKinsey. He stayed closer to the family business. He's a well-known conductor and composer. And he'll be interviewed by the director of the Kennan Institute, Matt Rajansky. Matt also deserves another great round of applause. And thank you very much, Matt. And finally, the last Burya Applaudismentov goes to his colleague, Joe Drayson. Joe is really worked so hard on the Solzhenitsyn initiative. Just his persistence and the doggedness of getting this finally done and in the can. Tonight's a great celebration of everybody's efforts to bring together and to bring alive tonight Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn's work. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce and call Matt Rajansky to the stage. Thanks.